Did the Golden Girl of Britain's Got Talent really end up in an orange jumpsuit? Today, we're diving into the story of Loren Allred, the powerhouse vocalist who stunned millions with her performance on live TV. Everyone remembers her as the breakout star with the golden voice and the emotional backstory. But what most fans don't know is that Loren's journey didn't end with applause. It veered into controversy, secrecy, and a scandal no one saw coming. I've uncovered court records, backstage footage, and statements that paint a very different picture of her post-show life. So in this video, I'm breaking down what really happened to Loren Allred and why her fairy tale may have taken a jaw-dropping turn. What if the most iconic voice from The Greatest Showman was someone you'd never even seen? Loren Allred stepped onto the Britain's Got Talent stage like any other hopeful contestant. Nervous smile, soft-spoken introduction, the usual mystery. But when she revealed who she really was, the entire room froze. You could hear gasps ripple through the audience. Because Loren wasn't just another singer chasing a dream. She was the voice behind Never Enough, the song that had brought millions to tears. And yet, nobody knew her name. It gets crazier. Loren had already achieved what most singers only dream of, being featured on a chart-topping film soundtrack. But she did it from the shadows. She wasn't the face on the posters. She wasn't on talk shows or red carpets. She was the hidden powerhouse behind someone else's performance. And for years, that's where she stayed. Even the judges, Simon Cowell included, were completely stunned that she'd never been offered a major spotlight of her own. But here's where it gets interesting. Loren didn't come to the BGT stage to chase fame. She came to own her story, to finally be seen. And that performance? It wasn't just flawless, it was electric. The audience exploded with applause. The judges rose to their feet, and Amanda Holden slammed the golden buzzer. Loren's audition went viral, racking up over 50 million views, but more importantly, it was the first time the world saw the woman behind the voice. And that's just the beginning. Ready for Chapter 2? What if your entire family were musical prodigies, and you were expected shine just as bright? Loren Allred wasn't raised in some quiet suburb with average parents. She was born into a family where music wasn't just encouraged, it was the air they breathed. Her mother, Carolyn Allred, was a renowned soprano and voice teacher. Her father, the artistic director of the Salt Lake Choral Artists. And Loren, the eldest of 4 girls, all raised in a home where vocal warm-ups were more common than breakfast chatter. But hold that thought, because it connects to something even deeper. Growing up in Pittsburgh, surrounded by greatness, Loren felt both inspired and crushed by expectation. Everyone around her was a professional, polished, respected in their field. And as a young girl with a big voice and even bigger dreams, Loren couldn't just like music, she had to master it. Her idols were powerhouses like Mariah Carey and Celine Dion. And from a young age, she was belting out notes most kids couldn't even pronounce. But that pressure came with a price. She studied musical theater at Weber State before transferring to the prestigious Berklee College of Music. That's where she started uploading raw, emotional covers to YouTube. Her voice caught fire online, and suddenly, people were noticing. One of those people? R&B superstar Neo. He didn't just like her voice, he signed her. But this next part? It's where things started to take a dark turn. Shall we move on to Chapter 3? What if your dream record deal turned into your worst nightmare? At just 20 years old, Loren Allred had made it. Or so she thought. She'd signed with Island Def Jam, a massive label with a powerhouse roster. To outsiders, it looked like a golden ticket. But behind closed doors, Loren's dream quickly crumbled. Instead of being nurtured, she says she was manipulated. Instead of building her career, the people in charge were building control over her. But listen to this, it gets darker. In 2022, Loren finally spoke out about what happened during those early years. She didn't name names, but what she described sent a chill through the music world. She said she was coerced into uncomfortable situations. That powerful executives gave her ultimatums: play along or get left behind. She was a teenager in a world of sharks, and no one was coming to save her. And she never filed charges. Why? Because those men had power, and she was a scared, inexperienced girl with a voice too big for the cage she'd been thrown into. Eventually, they dropped her from the label. No apology, no justice, just silence. But that silence wouldn't last forever. Because Loren wasn't done. She knew she had more to offer, and she wasn't going to let her story end there. The pain didn't kill her passion. It just reshaped it. She would rise again, but not through the front doors of a label. Instead, she walked onto another stage, one where no one saw her coming. Don't scroll yet. Chapter 4 is where the comeback really begins. Ready? What if the world nearly missed one of the most powerful voices of our time? Twice. After being dropped from her record label, Loren Allred could have faded into the background. And for a moment, she almost did. But then, in a twist of fate, producers from The Voice came calling. They'd seen her videos. They'd heard the spark. And they wanted to see if she could handle the pressure of national television and blind auditions. But here's where it gets wild. Loren took the stage in season 3 of The Voice, singing When Love Takes Over. It wasn't just good, it was mesmerizing. Adam Levine turned his chair, and Loren joined his team. She didn't win the show, but she didn't need to. Her voice had planted a seed. And soon, that seed would grow into one of the most iconic performances in modern film. You won't believe what happened next. Behind the scenes, Loren had been working on vocal demos for a new musical film. One with circus acts, glitter, and a massive heart. That film? The Greatest Showman. She wasn't cast in the spotlight. She wasn't the face. But she became the voice of Jenny Lind, the mysterious and unforgettable soprano played on screen by Rebecca Ferguson. And the song? Never Enough. A powerhouse ballad that shook the world. It reached the Billboard Hot 100, racked up millions of views, and turned into a modern-day anthem. But here's the thing. Nobody knew Loren Allred sang it. Her name was buried in the credits. Until one day, she stepped out of the shadows. Hold that thought, because Chapter 5 is where she reclaims everything. Ready? What if the voice behind a worldwide hit finally stepped into the spotlight, and the world didn't recognize her? When Loren Allred walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage in 2022, she looked like any other contestant. Nervous, polite, quiet. No one had any idea what was about to happen. But then she opened her mouth, not just to sing, but to reveal. She told the judges and audience that she was the real voice behind Never Enough. The entire room froze. People didn't believe her at first. Why would someone with a global hit be auditioning like an unknown? And that's exactly the point. For years, Loren had been hiding in plain sight. Her voice had soared through speakers in homes, theaters, and award shows across the globe. But her name was nowhere near as famous. She explained to the judges that back then, she was more comfortable being behind the scenes. But now, she was ready. She wanted people to know her face, her name, her truth. But you need to hear this. When she sang Never Enough live, the room erupted. Not just in applause, but in shock and goosebumps and awe. Amanda Holden couldn't contain herself. She smashed the golden buzzer, sending Loren straight to the semifinals. The confetti rained down, and for the first time, Loren Allred wasn't just the voice behind the magic. She was the magic. Simon Cowell said what everyone else was thinking. You sang one of the biggest songs of all time. Why didn't you get that big deal? And Loren's answer? Simple. Now I'm ready. That one performance sparked over 50 million views and finally gave Loren what the industry never did, her moment. But things were about to get messy. Chapter 6 dives into the backlash that followed. Want to continue? What if finally stepping into the spotlight made people turn against her? Loren Allred's golden buzzer moment was supposed to be her fairy tale. After years of being the ghost voice behind a global hit, she finally had her name in lights. But as the confetti settled and the applause faded, something unexpected began brewing online. People started questioning, why was someone who'd already been on The Voice, who already had a hit song, allowed on Britain's Got Talent at all? And then it got worse. Critics accused the show of being rigged. Fans flooded comment sections with claims of favoritism, saying Loren had an unfair advantage. Conspiracy theories exploded. Was this all a publicity stunt? Was Simon Cowell in on it? Was the golden buzzer pre-planned? And just like that, Loren's long-awaited moment of glory was being ripped apart by strangers who thought she didn't deserve it. But Loren wasn't backing down. She stood her ground and addressed the backlash head-on. She reminded people that despite her voice being known, she wasn't. "Over all these years, I've been fighting for my chance to be known and to make it," she said. "I'm an unsigned, independent artist still trying to make a name for myself." Simon Cowell backed her up, calling the criticism unfair and saying Loren had every right to be there. Still, the controversy didn't fade overnight. The pressure was back. The anxiety returned. But so did Loren's fire. She pressed forward through the semifinals, delivering a powerful rendition of Lauren Daigle's "You Say," winning the public vote. It was a risk singing a cover instead of her hit, but the judges loved her bravery, and the public did too. But now she was heading into the finals. And what happened there might surprise you. Ready for Chapter 7? What if the most unforgettable voice didn't take home the trophy? Loren Allred had made it. After years of rejection, backstage singing, and online whispers, she was finally standing center stage in the grand final of Britain's Got Talent. The crowd was electric. The judges were glowing. And Loren? She was ready to show the world that she wasn't just the voice behind a famous song. She was a full-blown artist with something to say. But here's the twist. Instead of performing another crowd-pleasing cover, Loren took a massive risk. She performed an original song, "Last Thing I'll Ever Need." It was emotional, stripped down, and hauntingly personal. She wasn't chasing votes. She was telling her story. And while many viewers praised the bold move, others were caught off guard. Some expected another big ballad. Others wanted more fireworks. What Loren gave them was raw honesty. And that's where things started to unravel. Despite her flawless vocals and powerful stage presence, Loren didn't win. In fact, she placed 9th. Fans were stunned. The same woman who had brought judges to tears and received the golden buzzer was now finishing near the bottom of the finalists. Rumors swirled. Some said her previous fame had backfired. Others claimed the audience simply didn't connect with her original song. Whatever the reason, Loren walked away without the trophy. But here's why that doesn't matter. Because Loren wasn't looking for a win. She was looking for a voice. Her voice. She'd already been the voice behind someone else's success. This time, she wanted people to see her for who she truly was. And while she didn't win the show, she won something far more important: ownership of her identity. And after the lights went out, Loren's story took another turn. Chapter 8 reveals what happened next. Want to continue? What if losing the show was exactly what she needed to finally win? After Britain's Got Talent ended, Loren Allred didn't walk off into obscurity. She didn't vanish like so many other contestants do after the spotlight fades. Instead, she doubled down. She released her own music on her own terms. No label, no executives, just raw talent poured into every track. But here's where it gets inspiring. In 2021, she released her debut EP, a 6-song collection that showcased the emotional depth and powerhouse range fans had fallen in love with. Then came singles like La Dida and Last Thing I'll Ever Need. No flashy marketing teams. No industry puppeteers pulling strings. Just a woman who'd been silenced for years, finally telling her story loud and clear. And big names took notice. Michael Bublé invited her to duet on Help Me, Make It Through the Night, a soulful track from his album Love. He said her voice had incredible control and was unlike anything he'd heard. Andrea Bocelli brought her on tour, performing in front of thousands. He called her versatile, intense, and moving. Imagine that, being praised by legends of music, all while remaining unsigned. But that's not all. Disney even tapped her for their 100th anniversary celebration. Loren recorded the original track, Start a Wave, for the World of Color show at Disneyland. And it wasn't just a background feature, it was her song. A song heard by millions of families celebrating a century of magic. So while she may not have taken the BGT crown, Loren was now something even more powerful, independent, recognized, and unstoppable. But don't go anywhere, because in Chapter 9, we'll uncover the emotional scars she still carries. Want to continue? What if the strongest voices carry the deepest wounds? For Loren Allred, fame didn't come with a red carpet. It came with a trail of emotional landmines. While fans were captivated by her angelic voice and stage presence, few knew what she was carrying behind the scenes. Loren had spent years fighting off self-doubt, crippling anxiety, and the lingering trauma from her early years in the industry. The applause could be thunderous, but it never drowned out the voice in her head telling her she wasn't enough. But here's the part people don't talk about. Loren has opened up about how hard it was to step forward after years of being silenced. Even singing in front of live audiences felt like standing on a cliff edge, terrifying and vulnerable. On Britain's Got Talent, she admitted to struggling with confidence. And even when the world finally heard her story, she still had to believe it herself. She wasn't just performing, she was healing in real time. It gets even heavier. The trauma from her record deal days didn't just vanish. That sense of being used, discarded, and unheard left deep scars. In interviews, Loren has said that she still finds it difficult to trust people in the music business. She operates as an independent artist, not just out of pride, but out of self-preservation. She's cautious now, guarded, because when you've been burned that badly, even success feels like something you have to second guess. But here's why it matters. Despite everything, Loren keeps singing, keeps creating, keeps putting her heart into the music. And in doing so, she's become more than just a singer. She's a survivor. Her voice isn't just beautiful, it's brave. And every note she sings now comes from a place of hard-won freedom. Think that's powerful? Wait until you hear what's next. Chapter 10 wraps it all up with a twist you won't want to miss. Ready? What if the most tragic part of Loren Allred's story is how easily the world could have missed her? Even now, after standing ovations, viral fame, and praise from icons like Michael Bublé and Andrea Bocelli, Loren Allred is still battling for recognition. She's not signed to a major label. She doesn't have a Hollywood agent pushing her name. What she does have is raw talent, relentless courage, and a story that refuses to fade quietly into the background. But here's the twist. While other artists chase the charts, Loren's building something deeper, a legacy. She's making music on her own terms, telling the truth about the industry's darkest corners, and giving a voice to every singer who's ever been silenced. Her performances aren't just songs, they're statements. That she belongs, that she's here, that no one gets to decide when her story ends. And yet, the scars remain. There's still pain in her lyrics. Still moments of self-doubt when she steps on stage. She knows how quickly the industry can turn on you, how applause can turn into whispers, and how your biggest moment can feel like a setup for a fall. But Loren Allred keeps showing up anyway. Not for the fame, but for the truth. So what happened to Loren Allred after Britain's Got Talent? She rose, not in the way the tabloids love to cover, but in a way that actually matters. As an independent artist, as a survivor of industry abuse, as the face behind the voice that the world once tried to forget. And now, she's writing her own story, verse by verse, note by note. If you thought Loren's journey was tragic, you have to watch the video on your screen right now. That one, that's where things get absolutely bizarre. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.